It's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Let's disturb the peace. We're trying to mind too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. It's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Disturb the peace. We're trying to mind too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Let's disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. Let's disturb the peace. From heaven, there's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Let's disturb the peace. We're trying to mind too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Disturb the peace. We're trying to mind too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Let's disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. Let's disturb the peace. From heaven, there's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Let's disturb the peace. We're trying to mind too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Disturb the peace. We're trying to mind too cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Let's disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Me and you. Disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Disturbing the Peace. I'm Crystal Amanchukwu coming to you today live from Y Refi Studios. We have an amazing show lined up today. There's a lot that we have to talk about, so please stay tuned, share this live. Let everybody know that we are on, because there's a lot happening that is disturbing our peace. So we have to disturb the peace. We have Adam B. Coleman, who is joining us today, and Savannah Craven. We're going to be talking about illegals and the CDL crisis that is happening in our country. Our roads are not as safe as they should be. That is a problem. We're going to be talking about the Stop Sharia Law Act and how Sharia law is trying to take a place of prevalence in our nation. We're also going to be talking about a little bit about voter ID and how some of the same Democrats who feel that people should be able to vote without having an ID also are asking for people to have 3 forms of ID just to shovel the snow. We have a few problems that we have to talk about today. So this is all up today on Disturbing the Peace. All right. Public safety, immigration policy, and transportation standards have collided in every way imaginable in this country. There's a viral video that is out showing an alleged undocumented driver operating a semi-truck on the wrong way on a major highway, and it has sparked national debate. The renewed attention on how commercial driver's licenses are issued has become a problem. Take a look at this video.
He's in the northbound lanes on Highway 61.
Did you see that? Did you see that that 18-wheeler truck on the wrong side of the road? And I would love to tell you that that person was driving without a CDL, driving without a license. But the reality is they have a license. They are supposed to be driving. And just in case you think that this may be an isolated incident, I want to share a video of the work of our special guest that's coming up now. Adam B. Coleman has been following this issue all across the country. Take a look at the expose that he has done. He shared it on X. Look at this.
But how many businesses that we're showing as active trucking companies are supposedly operating off of this one small office building?
It's about 47 carriers in this building. A little more than over 30 are actually active. Most of the other ones have been inactive for a couple of years now.
And the ones that we're investigating, most of those are basically just mailboxes that we saw.
Correct. There was one office suite that still has a couple of trucking companies operating out of it. The name of the company I was looking for, when I knocked on the door, 2 gentlemen opened the door for us, and I gave the name of the company that we were looking for. They had no idea what I was talking about. They gave us 2 different names for the carriers that they represented. I presented myself as a truck driver looking for a job, and they told me to get lost.
These chameleon carriers hire illegal immigrants as drivers, putting them behind the wheel of big rigs, killing innocent Americans on our roads, and spreading risk across all shipping. Their fake addresses and P.O. boxes block FMCSA inspections of employment records and hiding this illegal labor. It gets worse, as these illegal immigrants are also hauling U.S. mail for the Postal Service and even military items, endangering critical supply chains too.
Now, the proposed Delilah Act is raising serious questions about legal status, regulatory authority, and the responsibility of states to protect the public. The conversation isn't just about one incident, as we've shown you. It's about standards, accountability, and safety. Joining us now is Adam B. Coleman, author, commentator, and founder of Wrong Speak Publishing. Hello, Adam. Welcome in.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you are doing. Unpack this for us and for our viewers. What is the Delilah Law, and why was it highlighted nationally?
Yeah, the Delilah Law, one, who's Delilah? It was a little girl who was severely injured due to an illegal immigrant driving a truck out in California. With the help of her father and some advocacy, they were trying to have legislation through the Delilah Law, which is basically legislation, honestly, that shouldn't even exist. And in some ways, it's a little bit redundant because we do have some laws against this, but maybe it just includes more enforcement. So making sure that nationally, if you do not speak English, you cannot get CDL. I believe it has some stronger enforcement around it and compelling states to abide by it as well. So a lot of this happened because, to be honest with you, it stems back to Barack Obama and a memo that was sent out through his administration that they were not going to enforce the English language standard. Now, the English language standard was something that exists since the 1930s. So this is back, I think it was his last term when he put this proposal through, or this memo through. And so once that happened, that kind of opened the gates to potential fraud and to potential, black market activity. So when you reduce the standards and not allowing, when they get these inspections, for them to check to see if they speak English, because they have to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're communicating with a truck driver prior to Trump, and they didn't speak English, there was no record of it. They weren't enforcing it. And what's supposed to happen is if they can't communicate with you and they do certain tests to show that you can't read the signs, they're supposed to take you out of service. It's basically called out of service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means that that driver at that moment cannot drive. He must get off the road and someone else has to take his load. So now they're starting to enforce it since last year with the Trump administration coming into power. But now I think they want stronger laws compelling states to actually enforce it. Because it's one thing to have a law in the book, and it's another thing to actually compel states and force them to comply.
Absolutely. What specific safety concerns does this proposal aim to address?
Well, it's a very simple understanding. If you cannot read and speak the language, there are two parts. So we'll start with reading. If you can't read English, that means that you can't read the signs that we have. That means that you don't fully understand everything that is happening. Part of also what's been happening is these guys go to what they call CDL mills. So, and once again, this is all stuff that's happened over years. It's been an entire infrastructure that's been put into place. But let's say, I'm just going to make up a country. Let's say I'm a Ukrainian driver, right? So I'm a guy who comes from the Ukraine. I come here. I usually have a Ukrainian associate. He puts me in a school that's Ukrainian friendly. They help me take the test by providing information in Ukrainian or doing the test for me, the written test, because there is a written test for the CDL. So they're basically given a pathway to getting a CDL sort of legally, but doing it through illegal means. So it's an entire infrastructure that is set up. What they're out to do is ensure that every single test must be taken in English. There is no more loopholes when it comes to this. So they're trying to reinforce the English language standard, but being able to read the signs is incredibly important. That guy driving on the opposite side of the highway that we showed earlier, anyone who can read signs and is not intoxicated, you should be able to know that you're going the wrong way. So if you're not from that area, there's a clear sign in every place, especially when it comes to interstates. It says wrong way. Everyone who takes a driving test understands what that sign looks like. If you are coming from a country like India or like Ukraine, the signs look different. It's not familiar for you, and you don't read English, that is a great danger. And the other part is speaking English. The reason why speaking English is important, if they get pulled over by said trucker, police officer, right, or if they go to an inspection station, they have to answer questions. They have to provide information. They have to check certain things. What are they hauling? Where are they going? Right? If you can't communicate, that is a issue. That is a risk on the road. And they recognize that. They have to be able to communicate with the driver as far as what is he doing, where is he going. So, and there are other things that are not necessarily public safety related, but job related as a trucker, where English language is incredibly important.
So are you saying that with these persons who are bringing people into the country, they're driving, they can't read in English, they can't speak in English, do they know that they're breaking the law? Like, is it currently against the law for them to do that? Do they know they're breaking the law? Does anybody have the responsibility to go back and check and to make sure those things are happening? Or will the law now be changed to make it where you have to be able to speak and read in English?
The issue with the trucking industry, because initially when I first got into this, I thought, oh, trucking, we always hear that it's highly regulated, right? But trucking used to be, it is still a highly regulated industry, but it was a high trust industry, right? So you had a lot of skin in the game. You wouldn't be able to last long as a American trucker if you did half of the things that these guys are doing, right? Because you would get boxed out. People wouldn't work with you. Brokers wouldn't work with you. Shippers wouldn't work with you, right? What we've created is a lot of middlemen in between, and there is no enforcement. So the issue isn't laws, in my opinion. The issue isn't laws and regulations, and we need more of that. It means absolutely nothing, because these are people who are willing to break the law. So not necessarily putting all the onus on the driver, because many of these drivers are brought here under false pretenses. Many of these drivers are forced to work 65, 80 hours a week. And as a matter of fact, some of them are told to sleep in the very truck that they're driving in. So that is like their apartment. They have no other home, and they have to pay rent too, right? So a lot of these guys aren't in the most favorable positions who are driving these trucks. But anyone who is willing to break the law and traffic another human being into this country is willing to break trucking laws. That's not a big deal to them.
Wow. 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 So how did social media accelerate this policy conversation? Because if it weren't for the work of people like you and some others who are just recording what's happening on the road, I don't think that most of us, especially if we're dependent on a legacy media, we wouldn't even know that this is a problem. So share with us how social media has accelerated the conversation.
Well, to be sort of fair, illegal immigration was a general political issue. So especially coming from the political right, we're more likely to highlight areas where there's illegal immigration. So the classics are, agriculture, manual labor, like in construction, stuff like that. Everyone's familiar with that. What got on my radar about trucking was the U-turn accident in Florida involving an Indian driver who was here illegally that killed multiple people. That's when I realized, because I had no idea that illegal immigrants were driving trucks. That seems absurd to me that that's the case. So when that got on my radar, that's when I started becoming more and more interested. So I want to give most of the credit to the people who are within the trucking industry who've been sounding the alarm for years, and no one has heard them. No one's actually cared. But if you start talking to truckers, if you go online and talk to truckers, they'll say this isn't like a new thing. This has been going on for years, and it got really bad under the I was about to say Biden, but the Biden administration, because the floodgates opened. Joe Biden gave these people work authorizations since they were waiting for their supposed asylum claims, which because they flooded the system, some of their asylum claims weren't going to happen, like their actual hearings wouldn't happen for years. So they were thinking, well, if they're going to be waiting for years, might as well put them to some good use. So let's give them authorization to work. And that was the start of really taking advantage of all these people. So many of these drivers, you'll find out, Some of them even before Biden, but some of them really started sprouting up, especially from different African nations and things like that, really during the Biden administration when they were given authorization to work.
I read in a report, I can't remember exactly where, but our CDL schools went from about 2,100 schools in the U.S. to about 42,000 schools under the Biden administration. I mean, that's a huge part of the problem. So why do advocates believe legal status should factor into CDL eligibility?
Well, I mean, if we remove trucking, you shouldn't be allowed to do anything in the United States if you're not here legally. You shouldn't be allowed to drive if you're not here legally. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be an American citizen. Obviously, there are people who get work authorizations to come here and work. That is perfectly fine. These are legal paths, and people can discuss, H-1B visas and stuff like that. And these are all up for discussion. But that is at least a legal path to come here, and they can work or they can stay here. There's certain visa requirements and things like that. That is a pathway because it ensures checks and balances too. We don't know these people who are getting behind the wheel. We don't know if they are criminals in their homeland. We know none of that stuff. If they were going through a legal visa process, they would be denied if they were criminals. They wouldn't be allowed to come into this country, especially to work. So, when you go through the southern border and skip all of that and allow the Biden administration to just say, well, they're all the same, so let's just give it to this guy. I don't know if he's a gang member, and I don't know if he's actually legitimately seeking asylum, but let's just treat them all equally, give them a bunch of work authorizations, spread them out across the country, and cross our fingers that they actually come to court, which many of them don't. So that is the black market that the federal government helped to create. And it does not shock me that there was an explosion in CDL mills because everyone saw the money. I'm willing to bet that much of them being able to even get in and get their CDL, because these are people who are coming from, they're supposed to be refugees. The federal government was probably paying for most of this. If they're saying, oh, well, you give me work authorization, here's some money, or some NGOs who were probably getting federal government dollars anyways. So our taxpayer money was actually going into supporting this particular thing. So this is the troubling part about having bad leadership, because they take our money and spend it as if it's someone else's money. It is our money, and we're helping to fund for people getting killed on the roads.
I want to take a look at this video from Senator Banks. He's out in Indiana, and he kind of addresses this topic as to why is this happening in our country? Why did we get desperate? What's going on? Let's take a look at this video.
Already.
Were we short of truck drivers? Were we desperate? What was the reason for all this?
Well, this is an important part of it too. This isn't just about the safety of families on the road. These illegals are taking really good paying jobs away from Americans. Democrats say all the time that illegals do the work that Americans don't want to do. These jobs are six-figure jobs. I mean, truck drivers are hardworking men and women. They make good money, and illegals are flooding into our country. Shady companies are hiring them to drive semi-trucks.
And lastly, how many people are on board on this? I know it's brand new. Do you have any Democratic support?
Not yet. You saw last night the Democrats wouldn't stand up when President Trump said we will pass the Delilah law. They wouldn't even stand up and applaud for it.
Well, you heard that is interesting. How many times have we heard the statement that illegals are doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do? We've heard that so many times, related to so many industries in the country. And what is your reaction to that? What do you think? Is there a scarcity of people who are interested in trucking in America? Why are we doing this?
That is the phrase that I hate the most, because it is the phrase that always allows for, whether it's some sort of industry tycoon or whether it's the government or whoever, to rationalize squeezing out the American citizen from economic opportunities. Americans don't want to do these jobs, so we'll send it to China. Americans don't want to do these jobs, so we'll import a bunch of cheap labor, right? So they always say this. When it comes specifically to the trucking industry, from my understanding and just all the research I've been doing, this is a statement of shortage that has been going on for decades. They've always said that there's a shortage of trucking, right? There isn't. It seems to be a fable. It is something that benefits certain parts of the industry, right? Usually the shippers, the top shippers, and things of that nature, the people who actually are lobbying the federal government, right? The people who are lobbying the federal government aren't truckers. They're the people who run high-end trucking companies, run the brokerages, those people. They want more truckers within the market because the more of anything, the more people that you have in a particular industry, the less the value of them because they're plentiful. And so when he's saying trucking is, it can be six figures, yes, it used to be. Many of these truckers are struggling, especially the owner operators. They're taking loads, they're trying to make as much money as they can, and they have a lot of risk because if their truck goes down, they stop making money. And then they have to spend money to bring their truck back up. It was lucrative at points, and there are times with the trucking industry where it's booms and busts. These are all normal things. And when you see companies lasting for 30, 40 years, they all understand this. What we're seeing here is abnormal. What we're seeing is that the trucking industry has been infiltrated, right? It's being flooded. It is being massively flooded by people who do not follow the rules, who will use illegal labor, who will engage in human trafficking, who will double broker, who will do all of these different things that are against the rules. And they know they can do it because there's no real enforcement. No one cares.
What role should, as you're talking about enforcement, what role should states play versus the federal government in CDL regulations? Because obviously enforcement and regulation is the biggest part of the problem here. Where should the lines be drawn between the state and the federal government?
It's interesting. There are people who want to federalize CDLs, and I understand that. I don't have a strong opinion for either one.
Okay.
Because we're looking at a policy. We're looking at a policy solution, and unfortunately, the policy solutions aren't working. There are plenty of policies. That's what I'm saying. Much of this is actually kind of redundant. If they don't speak English, they couldn't be able to get a CDL, right? If we actually enforced our immigration laws, they wouldn't be here in the first place. So it's not a lack of laws. We already have laws. These people are here illegally. They are already breaking the law. It is enforcement. And it's the will to enforce. So what we're seeing with Donald Trump, he has the will to enforce. What we're seeing when it comes to these CDLs and beyond the CDLs, these shady carriers and things like that, there has been virtually no will to enforce. So even if the FMCSA, which is the regulatory body, finds a shady carrier and they're hiring illegals and they're doing all this stuff, and we can go on X and tell Sean Duffy, shut these guys down, and they shut them down tomorrow, you know what they'll do? Tomorrow they'll start another trucking company because it takes 24 hours to get a new DOT number, and they'll be back on the road taking loads because the brokers don't care because they're making billions of dollars. And the shippers like Amazon doesn't care because they're making billions and billions of dollars. So the problem is true enforcement. I'm to the point where either we need to do one of two things. And I don't know we're there yet to have these as actual solutions. Either we have to start jailing people, whether it's the drivers, the disincentivized, or the carriers who are doing this because they're engaging in illegal activity, or we have to start impounding trucks and they can't get their trucks back. And we sell them off and use that money as revenue for the country. I think that is the only real way to slow these down. I was talking to a trucking expert. They were actually impounding trucks. I believe it was in Oklahoma. If they were catching them failing the English language standard, they were impounding the trucks. They weren't just taking them off the road and saying, oh, well, I'm just leaving the cargo there. They were impounding the trucks. Taking the truck away removes their ability to make money because trucks are expensive. So I think that is the way that we actually have to go forward. We actually have to have an enforcement arm. We can't just rely off of new regulations and things like that. These people don't care. It's the same thing with guns. It's like, let's make a new law about gun safety. Criminals don't care about your gun laws because they're criminals. It's the same thing with these guys. It is criminal. It is a criminal element. We don't want to call it that, but that's what it is.
Absolutely. Well said. You answered all of the questions. I think that we hear, we hear so often in so many areas that there's always someone who wants to bring a new law, push a new law. We act as if the laws are not already there. And I think enforcement of the law is the take home message that we really need to give our lawmakers and policymakers. And so thank you so much, Adam Coleman, for being here. How can we connect with you, follow you, and learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, since I started, I wrote an article for the New York Post about this. Obviously, you saw that piece. I want to do a deeper documentary about this particular situation, focusing on the victims of illegal truckers, because there's nothing like talking to a widow who lost her husband because a guy who was deported 16 times was driving a truck, lost control, and her husband was crushed to death. Like, these are real people. These aren't numbers. So what I want to do is highlight these people to talk about their ramifications. So I'm doing a crowdfunding on GiveSendGo. So they can go to givesendgo.com/theillegalhighways. And whatever you can give, I greatly appreciate it. But I want to get this done to pay respects to the Americans who were lost on the road, because for every crime and every life that is lost due to an illegal immigrant in this country is one that was preventable because they were not supposed to be here.
Thank you so much. Give, Send, Go, the illegal highways. I hope that you all will support. Thank you so much, Adam Coleman, for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you heard what he had to say. We have some big issues that are certainly bigger than our actors and athletes saying ice out. There are real issues that are taking place, and I'm so glad that our president and so many others are coming together to do the work that needs to be done to protect the American people. Now I want to talk about why refi. Let's talk about debt. Private student loan debt in the U.S. totals about $300 billion. About $45 billion of that is labeled as distress. Why refi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They provide you with a custom loan payment plan based on your ability to pay. Why refi is not a debt settlement company, and they work with each borrower individually, tailoring each loan to each borrower's specific situation. You will not be calling a faceless call center. Why refi can reduce your monthly payment and guarantees interest rates under 6%, ensuring affordability and financial relief. Why refi does not care what your credit score is. I'm going to be like John and say that again. Why refi does not care what your credit score is. Why refi can save you thousands of dollars by refinancing and even lowering your total cost. Just call 888-YREFI-85, 888-YREFI-85, or log on to yrefy.com. That's YREFY.com. And that was a word from our sponsor. Now we're going to have a conversation. We have our next guest that is here, and we're going to talk about the fact that across the country, Americans are asking serious questions about governance, religious liberty, and the rule of law. From legislation designed to reinforce constitutional supremacy to regulatory mandates that raise concerns about bureaucratic overreach, to ongoing legal battles involving public commentators, the tension between authority and accountability feels more visible than ever. Joining us now is Savannah Craven, conservative commenter and creator of Her Patriot Voice. Hello, Savannah. Welcome in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We're the focus of our interview today. We're going to talk a little bit about Sharia law and Mandamni. I know you're there in New York, so you probably have a lot of perspective to give about that. But let's start with talking about Sharia law. What is the core purpose of the Defeat Sharia Law Act in America? now?
Yes. Well, we can see here in New York City, I mean, the goal of Sharia law is to completely take over. Islam is not a religion that respects women, children. I mean, they don't even see us as human beings. And so the fact that they are coming from these very, very poor, unstable countries and trying to bring this into the Western world and replace Christianity, which is the religion that does respect women, that respects families and human rights, and bring that thought process over here. It is happening at a rapid rate, and especially in New York City, where people who are voting, a lot of these millennials and Gen Z, they weren't even here during 9/11 to see what the effects of Islam and Sharia law actually does and what that looks like.
I want to play this video that goes to the heart of what you're saying about how Americans are treated, especially if there is disagreement with Islam in America. Let's watch this.
He talks about how the blood of the martyrs, I'm quoting, irrigates the land of Palestine. And then further quotes, he talks about how the terrorists should strike them with knives and with their bare hands, and they're victorious. And he also encourages the use of rockets over there.
The best suggestion I have for you is to not drive on Warren Avenue, or to close your eyes while you're doing it. His name is up there, and I spoke at a ceremony celebrating it because he's done a lot for this community. And although you live here, I want you to know, as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city, because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence. You're somebody who tries to preach it, but in fact, you do everything but that.
The minister speaking with Fox News after the incident.
I did not respond to the mayor with hate. He shut me down, like you saw. He was very angry. He said, "Get out of town," etc. I mean, he spoke for himself, so I don't need to repeat what he said. And I responded by saying, "God bless you, Mayor. God bless you, sir."
That was amazing to me. Mayor Abdullah Humad, he just completely excoriated and disrespected a Christian minister who was expressing his concern about a street being named after an individual who was a supporter of Islamic terror groups, Hezbollah and Hamas. And then he scolds the minister for not being one to coexist. But then he tells him, if you don't like the sign, don't look. I hope that you move out of town. You're not welcome here. And that when you move, we will have a parade. All of this coming from a mayor in America. What are your thoughts about this?
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised. I mean, Mayor Mamdani has also taken photos and congratulated and celebrated people who were a part of terrorist groups or their terrorist group sympathizers. And so this is not surprising to me, but it's absolutely terrifying that we have elected people in the United States of America, keyword united, right? When you go into a public office, you pledge to protect all of your city's residents, your state residents. And of course, being a president, you need to respect that we have freedom of religion in this country. But these people who believe in Islam, who care about these terrorists and people who have anti-American values, it doesn't fit with their narrative if they go out and say, well, you know, maybe there's a little bit of concern for this person who has sympathized with terrorists before, or they care about Hamas and they sympathize with Hezbollah. If you start to question that, you need to get out.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And what you said earlier is right. We do have another generation of individuals who are not aware of what happened in 9/11. They're not aware of the reality of how dangerous Islam can be for our country. What concerns have been raised about foreign legal systems influencing U.S. laws from what you can see?
Yes. Well, look at how many people we have elected across the states of the United States of America who follow Islam. I mean, the way that they have tried to introduce this and then also now trying to change policy. The fact that you can go down, you can take the train down to Times Square in New York City, which is supposed to be the biggest, most incredible city in all of the world, and it's normal for you to see not just dozens but hundreds of men on mats lying down saying Allah Akbar. They are completely fine and they're proud to say that Islam is going to take over New York City. And everyone is just walking by as if this is normal. This is a Christian nation founded on Christian values. And if we don't speak up, it's going to be completely taken over. And honestly, within the next 10 years, we could see a completely different country than what we have today.
I agree. And you spoke earlier about Mondani and his suspicious behavior, even as it relates to his support for Islam. But we also want to talk about him because he has a new mandate where to shovel snow, he is requiring a 3 ID. He's requiring 3 IDs to shovel snow. Can you explain the logic behind that? Help us out here.
Of course. Well, it's not logic. He thinks that we are stupid. And unfortunately, a lot of people who voted in the mayoral election are, I would say. They believed all of his lies. Oh, we're going to bring peace. We're going to bring free things. We're going to freeze your rent, free buses. And then on January 4th, the buses and the subway systems raised 10 cents. This man, everything he says, I just automatically assume the opposite is going to happen because within less than a couple of months of his leadership, we have seen that. And so he wants people, illegal immigrants, people who fled into this country, who disrespected our immigration laws, who do not share American values, to be able to vote in US elections without an ID. But in order to shovel snow, you need a social security number and 2 forms of a government issued ID. It's absolutely comical the way that the left and so many people who just had hatred for Trump, hatred for the Republican Party, just went into the voting booth, voted for this man, and thought they were going to get what he was promising out of him.
Yeah, it was really interesting to even hear the way that Trump called him out and called out the Democrats at the State of the Union address. In fact, I want to show this video where President Trump calls him out. He says, hey, he's a nice guy, but he talks about the irony of the standards that he has for his city or for the city of New York and the requirements that we should have for voting. Let's take a look at this.
And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a social security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good.
He's absolutely right. The greatest privilege in America is not shoveling snow. The greatest privilege in America is the privilege to be able to vote. And you should have to show an ID to participate in the voting process in America. Now, continuing the conversation about the Defeat Sharia Law in America Act, one of the things about Sharia law is that it's not just political or social or economic. Sharia law comes with the intent. Those who believe in Sharia law believe that all of the world should be under the submission of Allah, or put another way, Sharia law is the complete political, societal, and individual submission to Islam as written in the Quran and found in the hadiths of Muhammad. So my question for you, Savannah, how do policies like this point to a broader conversation about Islam and how it fits and how it should fit into American culture?
Well, if we continue to normalize this, people are going to think that worshiping Allah and Islam is it's going to be part of American culture very soon if the church doesn't stand up and do something about it. I just want to read something from the Quran. Now, this is a translation, but it says, with protection given by Allah, as for women to whom fear rebellion, convince them and leave them apart in beds and beat them. Then if they obey you, do not seek a way against them. Surely Allah, the highest, the greatest. So the same people who say they care about women's rights, they care about women being equal to men, they scream about abortion rights and how women are so oppressed in this country, are completely fine with a religion infiltrating our country and infiltrating our government that it says it's okay to beat your wife if she disobeys you. That is where we're at. People need to wake up. Us Christians need to stop being scared. Jesus died for us on that cross, and we should be willing to lay down our life and especially lay down our, thinking, oh, well, what if I lose friends? What if I lose Instagram followers? What if I get pushback? We are in a life or death situation. Very, very soon we will be there, and people really need to realize that quickly.
Absolutely. And a question about the policy that Mamdani has. How does credential-based mandates like this reflect broader regulatory trends? The trend of you have to have 3 forms of ID to shovel snow, but no ID to vote. How does this mandate, do you think, will affect regulatory trends in the future?
I think we'll just continue to allow people into our country and into our cities who don't share our values and don't believe in following the law. But, ultimately, the reason that Democrats, people like Mamdani, are so against voter ID laws is because over 60% of first-time immigrant voters vote Democrat. This is all about votes for them. It's about gaining power, and it's just rules for thee and not for me, simply.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell us about your civil case. We know that you are a fighter for life. You have certainly been a person who's stood on what you know to be right and have taken some slack for it. And you know what it's like to be persecuted. Update our audience on what your civil case is about and tell us how it's going up to this point.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, I do not have much positive news. We've been unable to confirm if my assailant has actually been served. I think she's sort of moving between locations and we're not able to find out where she works. And I was told that I should hire a private server, and that was going to cost me $5,000. And my medical bills only came to about $3,000. So the ultimate goal of me pushing back legally was to hopefully get her criminally charged, but I was failed miserably by the district attorney's office of New York, Alvin Bragg, who is infamous for its 2-tiered level of justice. They care more about criminals than they do victims. And so unfortunately, nothing will be going through criminally. And I wanted her to learn a lesson out of this, but we know that my assailant, Breonna J. Rivers, is just like much of the left. There is no sympathy. There is no care for when you go and assault someone. It's totally justified if you feel that that person provoked you or if you feel that they deserve it. So I just ask for prayers for not only myself, my safety, but also for my assailant, that she finds God and that she heals whatever deep-rooted trauma is going on within her heart.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. And just for the audience, as you were working on the streets and speaking about doing some man on the street, as they call it, work, talking about life and advocating for pro-life ideals, someone just hit you.
Yes.
In the face, hit you in the face as you were talking, unprovoked. And now we know that words are violence these days, especially to the left. So it was unprovoked. Exactly. And now we can't do anything about it. And it's not making much headway. I really hate to hear that. How has your legal experience shaped your perspective on advocacy and public speech?
Well, I would just say that all we can really do is vote. Unfortunately, a lot of people who voted for Alvin Bragg in this last election don't even know who he is. They just vote Democrat straight down the ballot. And what they don't know is not only has he failed people with political acts of violence, such as my case, but also women who have just been assaulted on the train. I met a lovely woman named Jasmine last fall when I hosted a victims' rights rally in the city. It was actually right outside of Alvin Bragg's office. And she was assaulted by a deranged woman on the train who should have been in prison. She had had multiple cases before of assaulting people, being very high in public, and knocked her teeth out, broke her nose, and they booked her and let her right back out onto the streets. Not only is this, very unfortunate for the woman herself because she's clearly mentally unstable, is struggling with addiction, but she's also a threat to society, to people like Jasmine who were on the way to work, minding her own business, and just started being viciously attacked by a deranged woman. These types of people that Mamdani and a lot of other Democrat leaders believe should just be let out on the streets. And if Mamdani and these Democrat leaders really cared about women, they would care about bringing justice, getting these mentally ill people off of the streets.
Savannah Craven, thank you so much for your time today. How can we follow you and stay connected to the work that you're doing?
Thank you so much. As you said, my YouTube channel is Her Patriot Voice, where I go out on the streets. I have long form content talking about various topics that I'm passionate about. And I do need security, especially after my vicious attack. So if anyone feels called to donate to that, you can go to blacklineguardianfund.com. And all my other social platforms are just my name, at Savannah A. Craven.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hope that people will hear and donate because you definitely do need protection. You are going into you're going into the dangerous spots, but you're doing the work, and we're certainly praying for you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's all that we have for today. It's been another awesome show and conversation about the work that needs to be done in our nation. We hear so much of the propaganda about the work that President Trump is doing and the work that so many people, so many conservatives are doing, and we hear the hatred and the vitriol, but are we getting into the details to learn that there are real issues, that lives are being lost? This is not just about propaganda and talking points, that there is real work that needs to be done in this country. So I would encourage you to continue to share this program with other people, continue to get into the details. Let's read, let's find out what's going on. The legacy media will take individuals who have been killed by ICE. I think right now it's 3 people, and certainly 3 people are always 3 too many. But they will leave you with the impression that 3 people are being killed for no reason. They're not having the conversations about the people that are being killed on the road because there are people driving with under fraudulent CDL licenses, going to schools, not being taught according to the laws as they should be. We have people who are serving in our cities who are not following the law. Sharia law is a problem. It's not about hatred, but it is about making sure we have a country where Christianity and Christians are still respected. We are still citizens, so we have a right to religion as well. And we want to make sure that we're living in a country that respects the rights of women and children, and that recognizes the God of our founders. And in this country, the God of our founders is the God of the Bible. There's so much more to talk about. Join us next week, next Monday at 2 p.m. We will be right here disturbing the peace. So now I'm signing off from Y-Refi Studios. Don't just sit there and let the enemy have his way. Go out and disturb the peace. We'll see you soon.